We're here in the Innovation News Center at the University of Florida speaking to the visual coordinator for the College of Journalism and Communications, Mr. Steve Johnson. And Steve's today going to talk to us about Google Glass. And as you can see, he's wearing Google Glass at the moment, so it's kind of a nice little preview of what we're going to be discussing. So, Steve, can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that Google Glass can do?
Yeah, so we've been working in the Innovation News Center with our students and with Matt Sheehan, our director, just trying to find out new ways of how we use this piece of technology. Again, it's a little weird walking around with a computer on your face, and actually I'm recording you right now during this interview, so I'm sure we'll cut to that. But really, we want to find a way, can this be used with reporters in the field, and can this aid the way we do our jobs as reporters? So I've been bringing it on a number of assignments. We've loaned it out to students to see them work with a number of assignments. You can tweet from it, you can take notes from it, you can shoot pictures, you can shoot video. It's still very primitive. All of the apps haven't really come out for it. Google has just opened this up to become app friendly as far as other developers can come in and work on Google Glass. And this is actually the second iteration of their prototypes with Google Glass. They say it'll be ready for market, but they have even said things like this might not be the exact product that goes to market, so this might only be a test. But I think it is a great way to stretch the boundaries of A, wearable technology, and B, technology aiding in reporting when really you might not need to use your hands to take a picture. You might be taking notes and you can just look up and tell to take a picture at the same time or tweet a photo and maybe help multitask just a little bit better.
So how difficult is it to use for reporting or just in general? How user-friendly is it, basically?
You know, Google has developed a great platform, very similar to what they just released with their watches, which Professor McAdams is going to talk about when it comes to more wearable technologies. They have a very simple user interface. It's kind of a tap to turn on, or you can just lift your head up and down to a certain degree, and it'll also turn it on. And it's kind of one of two ways. You can make it voice-activated, so just say, "Okay, Glass, record a video, take a picture, or tweet this status." Or you can also swipe through menus on the side. And actually, this whole side part of the glasses, or the glass, is touch sensitive. So you can swipe back and forth to view photos, to view news articles, you can tap to go to the next menu. So you can pretty much swipe and tap to take a picture, record a video if you want it immediately instant, or use it as a voice command.
So you've already said that this is the second iteration. So we can obviously assume that there were going to be future versions of this. Where do you see this technology going in terms of where we're at right now, the things that you can do with it? You've already mentioned that Google's going to open it up to allow more apps to be added, but just in general, where do you see this type of wearable technology to record in this way going in the future?
We're in the early adoption stage of this kind of technology, similar to when the first iPhone came out. I think it was $600 or $700 for a phone that really didn't do much more than a phone and a web browser, and a lot of people went, wait a minute, I can have a phone and a laptop for almost cheaper than the cost of this device. But as you noticed when the iPhones and then the Androids came out, it really adopted quite well. I think wearable technology is something that's going to be adapted pretty well. Something like Google Glass will be adapted pretty well, especially in fields like fire rescue, police. You know, a fireman can walk into a building and have the blueprints right, on his face. Same thing with police officers. They can be in a certain part of town and say, we're looking for a suspect, and have this in. And same thing with journalists. You're seeing journalists use this every day just to aid in their reporting. If I'm in the middle of an assignment, or I'm walking, or I need to look up something, it's pretty easy to say, okay, Glass, give me the definition of this, or what's the current stock price of that. And while yes, you can do that on your phone, you might be doing 6 other things at the same time, as journalists do quite often. So I think it's in its very early stages, but just like any technology, look at Twitter, for example. I think today is the 8th anniversary of Twitter, and you can look up your first tweet. I think that proved more than ever that everyone's first tweet, no one had any idea what they were actually doing with Twitter. Mine was listening to Professor McAdams back when I was in college here. That was my first tweet. And many people just had random, this is my first tweet. Look in the last 8 years how that social network has developed so much. I think a technology like this, especially even quicker than 8 years, is going to develop much quicker in terms of uses, in terms of apps that will really enhance wearable technologies and something like Google Glass to really help our profession, and then the general consumer, which is something that I know Google is very interested in. They want someone to be able to hike a trail and see their maps right in there and share their photos and enjoy other people around them and be connected to these social networks quite physically.
So you've already said that with Twitter, it was something that going back 8 years, people are kind of surprised at what they were tweeting, and you talked about the iPhone, people were a little surprised that this is basically just a regular phone with a web browser. How different is wearing Google Glass compared to anything else that's out there right now?
I think if you look when it comes to developing new technologies, this isn't an incremental step, it's an architectural step. So you're not just taking a phone and putting a faster processor in it, or you're not just getting a camera and putting a better chip in it. You're actually merging new technologies. You're merging projection technology with computing technology, with really creating a whole new segment of the market with wearable, especially on your face, wearable technologies with glass. I think people are going to slowly adopt to this. I think there's an ethical dilemma that comes along with this type of technology. When is it appropriate to wear this? How can you use it? I think we talked earlier about the reference of, if you go to a bar at 10 o'clock at night to hang out with your friends, you're not going to pull out your laptop and start doing work. I think that same etiquette applies when it comes to Google Glass. I think there's a time and a place to wear it, and there are news reports about bars saying that they're banning this or restaurants banning that, and I think that's totally okay. There are bars and restaurants that ban hats. So I think when you really look at the adoption rate of this type of technology and how different this is, it's a monumental leap when it comes to what we can do with technology and what we can do with social networks and how we can use technology to aid ourselves in everyday lives, along with using technology to aid our work, to make our production a little bit better, to make our value a little bit higher, and to see what we can push the boundaries of connecting people. And I think that's what journalism's been doing from the very first, hot press to the cold press to typewriters to electric typewriters. Journalism especially has been an industry that pushes out old technology and adapts new technology as quickly as possible. They really are trying to find the next way to tell a story, and I think something like Google Glass, just like Twitter, where Twitter is kind of that push button publishing for the people, as Blogger called it. Google Glass is going to be that point of view documentaries from every single person in the world that owns them. That's a pretty powerful tool, especially when you combine it together with all of these social networks that Google's building.
So one last question. Price right now is still probably a hindrance for some people. Yes. It's not exactly inexpensive to get a pair of Google Glass. Do you see any other hindrance, the people that will be the laggards in terms of adopting some technology like this beyond just price?
Well, price right now is $1,500 to be a Google tester with this, which I think is a brilliant plan by Google, is please pay us to test our product for us. Wow, what a great idea. But as far as the adoption technology, certainly there's going to be a few things. I like the style of my prescription glasses. This is a little bit different than the style of my prescription glasses and sunglasses. So especially with any wearable technology, style has a huge factor in this. Obviously, it's kind of the cool, geek, nerdy thing to have Google Glass. It's something pretty interesting. But a few years down the road, when there's a lot of this, maybe a lot of people don't want a computer on the side of their face 24 hours a day. I think some other adoption issues, obviously price will go down, when it's in a full manufacturing stage. Google will work on that price point, just like Apple did with the iPhone as it came out. And really, it's just going to be up to consumers. They're the ultimate ones that are going to say, do we really want to use this as a mass marketing tool, as a mass consumption, or is this going to be something specialized? You don't see everybody walking around with cell phones when they first came out. It was really very important business, people that absolutely needed connection all the time. Well, now it's quite common. So I think this type of technology, of course, like any new technology, is going to have many iterations and many improvements and many steps in different directions. Like Google has said before, that this product might be drastically different when it comes out. It might not look anything like we're wearing now. This is definitely a beta device, but it's certainly a lot of fun, and we're very appreciative at the college to be working on it and being able to share some of these experiences with our students and with other researchers and faculty members.
Great. Well, that's it for me. I'd like to thank Steve Johnson for hanging out with us and giving us a little bit more insight into Google Glass, its use, and how it's going to be adopted, and sort of where we are right now. And thanks.
Not a problem. Thank you.